Hello and welcome back to the Villa podcast. I'm here, as always, with my good friend Dan Wiseman. Dan, how you doing, mate?
No, not bad, mate. Not bad. Fresh off the pan. The game has literally just finished. The Scotland game is still ongoing as we record this, as is the Northern Ireland game.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, no Villa players involved in that, but I think that's the second half of extra time has just started there. That's after penalties, if no one can find that goal. But yeah, the games are still going on. It's good to see you, mate.
Yeah, and it's not been that long since we actually saw each other, Dan. We did a live stream at halftime, so we would like to thank everyone who joined in on that on Twitter. There was some teething problems, but as there always is when you're trying new things. So thanks to the guys who stuck around for that. It's just something different that me and Dan thought we'd do. Obviously, it is during the international break, and we need, before we get into the podcast, we need some thoughts from you guys because obviously, listen, the international break isn't for everyone. We'd like to give a massive shout out to everyone who watched to listen to the last podcast. You guys are the real MVPs. It didn't perform as well as the other podcasts. Now, I'm not sure whether that's down to YouTube crashing the other day, which I think it might be, or just a general kind of disinterest in international football. That's what that Dan and my dad certainly seems to think, and I'm leaning towards maybe. But I'm hoping that it was just YouTube not pushing the video out to you guys. So, but yeah, no, just to reiterate, we do really appreciate all the support that you guys do give on the podcasts because it genuinely means the world that even though that we think it struggled, that there was still so many of you that engaged and liked. I think it was over like 40 likes, so around that kind of 10% average we always like to look at, so that's really important. So thank you guys for that. And obviously the main reason you're here, hopefully, is the fact that Jack Grealish and Tyrone Mings both featured for England against Conor Hourihane's Republic of Ireland side, and England have finally beaten Ireland after 7 tries, Dan. 7 draws in a row. England have finally done the business, and I mean, it looks really good on paper. Jack Grealish got an assist. Tyrone Mings kept a clean sheet. Both pulled off at around the 60-minute mark. It was an impressive day overall for them two specifically, Dan, wasn't it, really?
Yeah, I thought no complaints really. I mean, it wasn't, it's not one that's going to live long in the memory. Exactly. It was, as 3-0 wins go, it was, I think
Run
I
of the
don't think
mill.
yeah, it was, wasn't it really? I think Ireland were okay. I thought they did an all right job of nullifying us, and in the second half they really packed that 18-yard box and defended a lot narrower. And those little one-touch interchanges that we saw in the final third in the first half from England weren't quite as common as in the second half. And Ireland well, they deserve credit for that, really, I suppose. But they didn't really do a lot themselves. As you said, it was a clean sheet for Tyrone. Nick Pope and Dean Henderson share that clean sheet, but they weren't really tested. Dean Henderson had to make a decent save down to his left in the second half from an effort from range. But no, I think on the whole, a good performance from England. I thought Jack was good. It was good. I thought he we spoke about it on the live stream, but I thought perhaps tried a little bit too hard at times to try and do something magic and really, announce himself and stake his claim to be a nailed-on starter. But the numbers read well. Created 3 chances, 1-2 duels, one key pass, an assist. He created the most chances of anyone on the pitch, the most dribbles of anyone on the pitch, 94% pass accuracy, 18 accurate passes. It was a good night. It was a good night. I think, not the best we've seen with Jack, but he's still warming to this England setup, and I think that showed a little bit, mate.
Do you think that as well? I know certainly speaking with my dad about it throughout the game, he's not a huge fan of the 3-4-3, and I can't say I really am either. It's quite interesting because it is a system that Jack has a tiny bit of experience playing in, I guess, obviously featuring, if you think back to New Year's Day, Dan, when we were actually allowed to go to football games, Dean Smith did obviously deploy a 3-4-3 against Burnley, and it looked to be a turning point for Villa. It was a bad one. In fact, it wasn't the good one we hoped at the time with obviously
No.
Wesley and Heaton's injuries. But playing Jack, I wouldn't really say it was a left wing role specifically in that game. He was quite close to Wes. He was an inside forward who occupied on the left. So we'll say left forward just for argument's sake. So he's played in the system, and you did mention it on the live stream. You felt that Jack was, trying to come a bit closer to Dominic Calvert-Lewin. I think they've got some real nice link up. We saw that in the Wales game, but I think Jack needs to be afforded the freedom of the whole of the final third. Now, that's not me saying he deserves a free role. I just like to see the kind of fluidity, the interchanging of the wingers, which we did see a bit of throughout the game. Him and Sancho did occasionally swap sides, and we did see that to some extent. But I think what I'm trying to get at, Dan, is it begs the question: who plays 3-4-3 at home to Ireland in a friendly? It's a counter-attacking formation, and with no disrespect at all intended to Ireland, because if you're one of the few who listened to the last podcast, I've got Irish blood, so it was a win-win for me today either way, really. But England are a significantly better side, and we shouldn't have to. And I'm using that term quite loosely because I don't think Southgate was fearful of how the Republic of Ireland were going to set up. But you shouldn't have to deploy a 3-4-3 against Ireland, especially when you're playing at home, especially when there's no fans, and especially when you have an England squad as talented as we have, Dan.
No, I do agree, mate. I feel like whilst I was glad that we didn't see a holding midfielder, and I think considering how that midfield double pivot looks on paper of Winks and Mount, I didn't think I thought that would perhaps if Ireland had made a bit more of a go of it, then I think we might have seen the weaknesses in that midfield pivot highlighted a bit more. But because we were we had the front foot for most of the game. What is interesting is the possession actually reads pretty even. We only had 55%.
Yeah.
And it felt like a whole lot more than that, didn't it?
Absolutely.
But I don't think we necessarily saw the best of. I thought Bukayo Saka was great.
Yeah.
By the way, but I don't think we saw him in the positions in which he could really impact the game. You want to see, how intricate and the right word is precise his players. I really like when he gets involved, and he's got a nice tendency to be able to pop a 1-2 off and dive inside or beat his man around the outside. And he's got all these really nice traits. I love Bukayo Saka. I think he's a great player. I love his versatility. But you want to see him pushing a little bit higher into that final third, and Reece James too. I don't think there are many crosses of the ball better than Reece James in world football. And I don't think we saw the best of him either.
Yeah.
And so, the formation left a little bit to be desired. But this is the problem, mate. And it was the same after the Belgian game, is whereby on paper, we've won this game 3-0, a very respectable scoreline, considering that's probably a second strength England team.
Yeah, that's fair.
You're realistic. We've won this game 3-0. It's the same after Belgium. We've beaten the best team in the world 2-1 at home. Good result. And Southgate will feel that he can't really be criticised for that. And, it is hard to criticise a 3-0 win at home too heavily, isn't it?
Yeah, of course. It's one of them ones, obviously, I wouldn't say delighted we won, but obviously I'm happy we won, especially with some important games coming up, with Iceland. Now that's the government have allowed Iceland to travel into to the UK to play that game. So that's obviously some really good news. Sorry, if you see me looking down, it's just we're in the last minute of the Serbia-Scotland game, and Serbia just had a corner kick and they threw everyone up, and it's now gone to penalties. So sorry about that, guys. Wow. So there will be an update. We'll keep you updated live, although when you listen to this, it won't be live. But I think just back onto the 3-4-3. I think the problem is Southgate had relative success with it with England before, and he's a player, who played in a back three at Aston Villa, which was pioneered by your Brian Littles back in the 90s. I think people do tend to kind of forget that Villa made 3-5-2, 3-4-3 the norm in England, which give us some praise for that, but not too much, because obviously it's not how football is really played now. There's not many teams who play three at the back, and teams aren't really coached at youth level, and especially at a national team level where you've got players like Harry Maguire, and we had Michael Keane play as well, and obviously Tyrone Mings in that back three. Reece James started in there at that kind of right centre back role. Later on, when we saw the a few substitutions made, is that these guys haven't really played that much together. And the importance of communication really cannot be understated when you are playing 3 or 5 at the back, however you want to look at it. It's really important that you can trust them guys. And listen, I'm sure they do. We're just two outsiders, Dan, commenting on it, but it's when you've not played together all that much, it can be difficult. And against better oppositions, you'll get punished. Ireland didn't look. I mean, they created a few chances early on, but kind of as the game grew on, it became a bit more stretched. And with no disrespect intended, but who on that Ireland side, Dan, is going to really grab that game by the scruff of the neck and see them over the line, get a goal. It's a shame that obviously Callum Robinson wasn't involved after. I think he tested positive for COVID, which was a shame. It'd have been nice for him to have linked up with Grealish on the pitch. There was a really good article by Greg Evans in The Athletic about that and how they both swapped nations, which is interesting. But yeah, it's just, I don't know. We've got a big game coming up against Belgium, Dan, haven't we? And it's really important that we take this momentum still coming into it. And listen, they're top ranked side in the world. We got lucky last time, I would say, Dan, to be fair. You've got to be in it to win it in them kind of situations. And Mason Mount's reactions was brilliant to get the goal, albeit it was a deflected one, I believe, wasn't it? So, again, we can't, as you said earlier, Southgate will be happy with that performance as he was with the Belgian one. But I think we're really going to see what England are made of in this Belgium game, Dan, because they're not going to be very happy about losing to that England side last time.
No, definitely not, mate. And they're due a response because yesterday, at the time of recording, they played Switzerland, and they were really poor in that game. They went 1-0 down. They brought it back to 2-2. I think they had 2 shots on target, scored both of them. Michy Batshuayi at the double, if I'm not mistaken. And you do feel like Belgium. There's an onus on them because they've had this golden generation, and I can't imagine there are too many golden generations in history that have produced the sheer breadth and depth of talent that Belgium have experienced sort of in the last 10 years, and they have nothing to show for it,
which is a shame.
Absolutely. They got to a World Cup semi-final, and that was nice, but ultimately there's that football cliche that no one remembers semi-finalists, and you do feel like that this upcoming Euros might be their last chance for this golden generation to stake a claim and take home some gold, which this team deserves. I mean, if you look at I remember they were the favourites for Russia 2018.
Yep.
You feel like if you wind it back to Euro, even go as far back as Euro 2016. That if you look at the finalists between Portugal and France, you do feel like neither of those teams were potentially as good as Belgium. So they've got a real onus in this tournament coming up to win something, and you do feel like it needs to start soon, because if they're performing like they did it again in that England game and then in this Switzerland game, they're not going to get very far. So it's going to be an interesting game there. I don't think it would be one for the neutrals, because I don't think either side is performing at their optimum at the moment. But it'll be interesting to see how both sides line up for that game, how they try and combat the issues that were there in the previous game, because obviously Lukaku won that penalty very early on, didn't he? England didn't start winning that game, and it'd be interesting to see how we combat that, what formation we use, and you're hoping that because Grealish was taken off after about 60 minutes, that might mean he's involved in that game. I mean, with Southgate, you can never count your chickens, can you? But that's what you'd hope is the reason behind that substitution.
Yeah, as well, I think, even just going back to the kind of the Joe Gomez injury and stuff like that, we've just got to be very careful with our players. And I'm not too enthralled by the international fixtures, especially with a congested fixture list. And, who are we to complain? We're not playing Champions League football or whatever. The big boys are right to be upset about, a lot of players getting injured, especially Liverpool. But, we've just got to hope that John McGinn, Conor Hourihane, everyone really just comes back fit, because that's the most important thing. And as much as I think there would have been outrage if Grealish didn't start today, I don't think I could have complain too much. I think the main issue is the pettiness that we see from Gareth Southgate, really, isn't it, Dan?
Mm. Yeah, those comments really disappointed me, and I don't look. I mean, I've got a big conspiracy that England haven't been good at a World Cup since like 1966, and this is something that
Yeah.
I've had rumbling for a long time. Not the time to go into it now, but Southgate really won himself he won a lot of people over, didn't he? After the World Cup, it seemed like he could do no wrong. Waistcoat sales were through the roof, and everyone had fallen in love with the man. We were all chanting about him, and he's really done well to lose that support, because it now seems like, the majority of England fans are looking forward to a change, and perhaps starting to see that if we are going to succeed, and this is where we now start to draw similarities with Belgium, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
perhaps this is our golden generation, and I think it is, whereby we have so many exciting attacking players, and we have to put them in the right setup to maximise that, and try and get the success that these players can earn if they're played in the right system. I don't think that, if we're looking at the performances, I don't think the system we're playing is currently the right one. And I think the way that Southgate sort of handled that issue was, it rattled a lot of people, and I wasn't particularly keen on it either, to be honest with you. But I tweeted at halftime, hopefully this game proves that Mount and Grealish can exist together
Yeah.
in the same team, because they play two different positions. They're two very good, very talented, very different players. There doesn't need to be this rivalry created. And I think Southgate should have distilled that. The statement I've just made there should have been what Southgate said. And that should have been Southgate's response, saying there's no rivalry between Jack and Mount. I don't see it as an either or. They can both play together, etc., etc., as I've just said. But he fueled that fire, and that media rivalry that has been created. He tossed wood into that, and that was a strange approach, because one thing I did really like about Gareth Southgate, mate, and this is almost my dissertation topic, funnily enough, is how he handled himself in the press, especially building up to the World Cup. I thought was really impressive.
Yeah, it's a difficult job and to do, because I think there's always going to be outrage with England. We've been pretty poor internationally for a long time now. It's been a while since we've had a decent enough run in a major competition. I mean, you've just got to look at the golden era that Sven-Goran Eriksson wasted. With players like that, England should have won every tournament about, and there's no questions about that. We should have done so much better. I think with Southgate, he came across as the very he came across as a very nice guy, a very humble guy, and I don't want to say that it's maybe got to him, but I think now, if you can't handle the heat, you should get out of the kitchen. And I think ultimately, we're seeing that Southgate can't really handle this very well. He didn't do very well for Middlesbrough managing, obviously got them relegated, but with how corrupt the FA is, and look, we've seen this recently with the comments from Greg Clark, how abhorrently, backwards the English FA is, that Southgate even gets the job. Like that, it's beyond me. That's a whole other issue, but the FA ultimately want a yes man, and someone who they can manipulate, and someone who is easy to control. And Southgate was the easy decision. Had Sam Allardyce not have got himself into these dodgy dealings, I genuinely think we could have won something with Big Sam. And listen, every pundit, every man, every player, even the likes of Saka and Mount both said that Jack Grealish is world class. Everyone's saying it. Everyone's saying you've got to play him. Everyone's giving their 10 pence on the thought, which is easy to do, and it's essentially what we do every week, Dan, from the outside. But Southgate ultimately, in the past hasn't made these decisions whereby it benefits England, him or Grealish, by picking him. I'm sorry, I look at the penalty shootout there. No one's missed yet. It's incredible. It's going to sudden death. But listen, it's the FA's backwards. Grealish should be playing more. Not too much, because I don't want him to get injured. As we're watching this penalty shootout now, Dan, I think Serbia are about to take their 5th penalty. No one's missed. So if David Marshall saves this, John McGinn Scotland will be facing in the same group as England in the Nations League, Dan, I believe.
Yeah, that would be amazing. It was once Jack got taken off, I was keen to watch a bit of the Scotland game. Do please tell me whether this penalty goes.
Oh, Marshall's just saved it. Scotland have gone through.
No
wow.
way.
John McGinn wasn't on the pitch for the penalty shootout, but man, the scenes is brilliant. It's Scotland's first major tournament in so long. John McGinn's going to be there repping Aston Villa. This is live. When you listen to it, it's not, but wow. I actually just got a text through from a mate saying that they'd saved the penalty just 10 seconds before it happened on my phone. But I mean, wow. What a big save from David Marshall. Mate. He got his palm to the third penalty David Marshall did. So sorry, Dan, if I did look at all disinterested at any point during this conversation. I promise you I've been listening. But this is big news. Blame you. This is big news.
Their first major tournament since 1998. That's crazy. And to be honest with you, mate, once Jack Grealish got taken off, I switched over and I did watch the Scotland game. And that corner, it's the 89th minute. You know, you're Scott McTominay, you're Ryan Jack. You look around at the people coming into your box. You see Luka Jovic. You know, this dead
Real Madrid
of Real Madrid, scored so many goals for Frankfurt. It hasn't been exactly a cold-blooded finisher recently, but you know, you're still aware of the threats he poses, and no one picked him up. They left him completely off, and he heads it in. And I thought, God, this is the most Scotland thing I've ever seen in my life. They've done so well to get to that stage, and they threw it in the 89th minute at a corner. But no, for them to come back is great. And this is now, so our group at the Euros doesn't exactly look easy. You know, you've got Croatia, who are World Cup finalists, Scotland, who will do, you know, considering what this tournament will mean to them, everything and anything to go as far as they can and really make the most of it whilst they're there. You know, you only have to look at what Northern Ireland did at times in the last Euros, the last Euros, what Wales did. Yeah. And then you've got Czech Republic as well, who aren't going to be a pushover. And as Euros groups goes, mate, that's England, Croatia, Scotland, Czech Republic. It's not the easiest. Look, it could definitely be harder, but Group D,
dare I say Group of Death? The D stands for death.
Yeah. Conspiracies. But no, very happy for Scotland, and then more so very happy for John McGinn as well.
Yeah, man.
Mitro, was it missed the spot kick?
To be honest, mate, I couldn't tell. I was
apparently so. Mitrovic, he's fallen off recently, hasn't he? Like, he hasn't started the Premier League as Fulham fans. That's a completely different conversation. But no, very happy for Scotland. Let's get back on track. Very happy for Scotland. Very happy for John McGinn. What an amazing experience that's going to be, watching our main man do it at the Euros in the same group, seeing Jack and John hopefully play against each other on the same pitch at the Euros. That's what dreams are made of, Danny boy.
It's a sight to behold, mate. That's going to be a real war of attrition in the midfield, and you can guarantee that neither player will hold back, like Conor Hourihane did tonight with Jack, which I'm much grateful for. I'm not going to sit here and complain that Hourihane wasn't doing his little jump and pull back that he does whenever he's dispossessed or whatever. But no, listen, Dan, now that that's ended, I think we've exhausted the England game, and we've got the news that Scotland are through. So that is it on our 4 Aston Villa internationals who have played tonight. And we will be back within the next few days, probably after the Belgium game, with a podcast and maybe a little something special just before then. So keep your eyes peeled, guys. We've got something coming for you related to the Belgium game. So if you know, you know. And as this camera could die quite literally any second, I better wrap up, Dan. So if you guys did enjoy this podcast, please do hit the like button, comment your thoughts below, who you thought was man of the match for England. And if you watched the Scotland game, who was man of the match in the Scotland game? We'd like to know what you guys think. And of course, subscribe for more. The subs have been slowing down a bit recently, but we really do appreciate all the support. Again, just like to echo that sentiment from you guys. So if you haven't liked, please comment and subscribe. Up the Villa.
Just as essential to fulfilling this got potential. It's the main man, the hero. He's the main leader of the gang. Chester. He's the main leader of the gang now. Chester.